All right, so upon, well, I haven't even started editing this video yet, to be honest with you, at this point. Obviously, you see it up, so it's edited and uploaded, but I remember there was a point that I forgot to make in the video, so I'm making a point now. So, I want to also, I did touch upon it, but I don't think I said everything I wanted to say in regards to this point that I'm making now about the treatment of people with special needs, as opposed to how we are expected, people who don't have special needs to conduct themselves out in public, out in society, out at large in general, right? So I understand special needs is exactly that. There are special needs and special just differences, different ways in which we would have to treat and interact with certain human beings because they have special needs. Someone with Tourette syndrome, yeah, there's a way that, we should, conduct ourselves, respect them, of course, and just behave in a situation to where if you're around someone with Tourette's, which the form of Tourette's that John Davidson has is actually only about 10 to 15% of the population of people with Tourette syndrome. Most of it is just the physical tics and other forms that are higher than the verbal tics that John Davidson has, right? Although that seems to be the more, like I stated in the video as well, it seems to be the one that is more widely known. It's the rarest form of Tourette's, right? I actually did a video researching right after this video. I did research on just Tourette's in general, and the video that you'll see in the coming days or so will detail said research. But in regards to the special treatment, personally speaking, I don't care how this makes me look to some of y'all. Y'all should get this. Y'all should already understand this about me at this point in time. I'm going to speak my mind. If it makes me look a certain way to you, it makes me look a certain way to you. And it's not going to stop me from speaking my mind. With that being said, I still don't believe people with special needs. This is far beyond John Davidson at this point. This is including him, but just people with special needs. I don't believe that their behavior, their disrespectful behavior, their behavior that we as a society has deemed as, just bad, right? For lack of better wording. I don't believe their bad behavior should be overlooked, excused, ignored because they have special needs. Again, I made that point in the video, but I don't think that I fully expounded on it, right? When I look back and do the editing, if I find out that I actually am satisfied with that point, then you obviously won't see this part here. But for protective cases, I'm doing this now. Why do I feel like we shouldn't just ignore the bad behavior from someone who has special needs? Well, it's because we scream equality all the time. And that is literally the only reason. If we didn't scream everybody is equal or scream about equality as a society and scream that everyone should be treated the same and expected of the same, to behave the same way, if we didn't preach that, if we were actually honest about how we believe certain people deserve preferential treatment, how we believe that certain people deserve special treatment, whatever the case is, right? If we were actually honest about that, then I would not be saying this part here, because I would be like, well, y'all believe that's okay. that behavior is okay. And even if I truly still didn't believe that his behavior was okay, or the bad behavior from someone with special needs was okay, if I still didn't believe it was okay, yeah, I would make it vocal that I don't think it's okay. But I also would be like, but y'all as a society said it is, right? They deserve special treatment. This is the society. Essentially, I would be pointing a mirror in your face and saying, this is the society that you all created. Now you have special needs people running around here with no repercussions for their actions because they are special needs. And well, because we don't have a society that just allows people to run amok because of whatever special needs that they have, whether it be, and I hate using this term, but whatever if it's a mental disability or physical disability, because we don't allow them to just go around breaking laws, breaking rules, breaking bones, hurting feelings, just running amok again, because we don't have a society that allows that. Yeah, I'm going to hold anybody with special needs accountable when they do something. That if I, as someone without special needs, if you if you don't have special needs and you were to do the same thing, we would be held accountable for those same things. So that's my thing. I'm not just someone out here who screams equality just because it sounds good, because it makes me look good. No, I actually believe in it. If I am going to say that it is not okay for me, or if I'm going to be held to a standard that it's not okay for me to just say things, right? And I know people are going to bring up Tourette's. Oh, you don't have Tourette's. Again, upon my research, you're going to figure out, and watching this video, you're going to figure out that Tourette's isn't as random as people make it seem. Again, that video, when I do the research, is going to be out soon. You'll see that soon, if you already don't know this information, that the words from the people who have this form of Tourette's, it's not actually as random as one would make it seem or believe it to be. So with that knowledge, even prior to doing my research, with that knowledge, I don't look at someone with, and I'm going to mispronounce it, but I think it's called coprolalia. That's the form of Tourette's that John Davidson has, and the other 15% of people with Tourette's have. Where, again, they're just verbal tics, right? That's not as random as one might think. I'm not saying it's purposeful, like completely purposeful to scream out the N-word at a black person, but there is definitely a trigger there. There's definitely a correlation there. There's definitely more culpability there, than we give once again to these individuals because they have special needs. I've detailed recently, and just in general, of my experience working with when I was a teacher and working with students who are on the spectrum, the autism spectrum, right? What I noticed, and I was only working with that demographic for 5 years, right? For a total of 5 years, we'll put it that way. But what I noticed within my 5 years of experience with that demographic was that, again, like I'm saying with John Davidson or just anyone with special needs, people think all of their actions aren't actually premeditated. People believe that all of their actions can just be simply attributed to whatever their disability is, right? And I'm using disability in quotation marks because, again, like, I hate that word, but that's just me being super sensitive. I will admit that I'm being super sensitive when I say I don't like that word. But I'm going to use it anyway because that's the only word I could think of. And that's the word that's widely most commonly used anyways. I'm just being sensitive when I say I don't like the word disability. To me, it just paints, and I don't like it because it paints a picture of these individuals as people who, again, cannot function at all or cannot succeed in life. And me having a winner's mentality and all that stuff, I believe anyone can achieve anything they want to, as long as they hard work and all that other stuff, or they can achieve things. Let me just put it that way. But within my experience, 5 years of experience with people with both physical and mental disabilities, because it wasn't just people on the spectrum with autism that I worked with. I worked with all disabled people, all people with disabilities for about 5 years, ranging from the ages as young as 6 years old to as old as 22 years old. So there is that. But what I've noticed in my personal work experience was, again, people give this demographic meaning disabled people, okay, physical or not, people give them leeway because of their disability, and especially the older ones. But once these people start to notice, not everybody, of course, because some of the nicest people I've ever met were people with autism or people with other disabilities. Some of the most kindest hearted, most sweetest people I've ever met, right? So it's definitely not all of them, but there have been experiences where I definitely have come across a lot of people with disabilities who pick up on the perception people have about them and their disability, and therefore they would take advantage of that. And they will either do things knowing that they weren't going to be held accountable the same way as someone who is able-bodied would be, or able-minded, whatever the term is, right? Someone who doesn't have a disability, they know they wouldn't be held to the same standards and held to the same accountability level as, again, myself or yourself, if you're not disabled in any way. Don't take these people as fools who just, they don't know no better. Like, nah, that is not the case. They are intelligent beings. And like intelligent beings of all creeds, all races, all physical and non-physical ailments, or so, they can take advantage of their environment. They can take advantage of just anybody. And I've seen that happen. John Davidson, bringing him back into this conversation, because it is it is relative to what he did during that night at the BAFTAs. John Davidson, to me, gives off the vibe of someone who has rarely been checked for his outburst and his initial reaction. As I stated in the video, as you will see, his initial reaction was not an apology. It was to promote his film and to promote his advocacy for Tourette syndrome. That, to me, was an act from somebody who, again, wasn't sorry for what he did, but also was not used to being held accountable for his verbal tics. He was used to being ignored, essentially, or having the people react the way that they reacted to people saying that he should be held accountable. People coming to his defense. And yeah, when you continue to do that for people with disabilities, whether it's Tourette's or not, what you're doing is, what you think you're doing is protecting them. what you're actually doing is enabling inappropriate behavior. That's what you're actually doing. I'm not saying tease people with disabilities and make them feel bad for having a disability. That is not what I'm saying at all. But if, let's just say, physically, like, again, going back to the example of working with people with autism, if spitting on people and physically attacking people because you don't get your way, right? Or somebody, so you wanted to use an item, right? You wanted to read a book. You were at a library and you see a book that you want to read, but somebody else is reading that book, or someone else is sitting in the chair or at the table in an area really that someone that disabled individual usually likes to sit at. It is not okay to just for that person to run up to that person and yank them out the chair, or yank the book away from them, or start beating on them and throwing a tantrum. That is not okay, whether that individual has a tantrum, has a disability or not. If that child, if that teenager, if that adult who didn't have any disability were to act that way, we would check them and say that's not okay. But what I found, again, within my experience, a lot of these people with disabilities do this not because of their disability. It's because people enable them and excuse their disability, excuse their behavior as saying, well, they're this, they're that. That explains why they think it's okay for them to react this way. It doesn't excuse it. Explaining a reason doesn't excuse it. You go out and you drink and drive and get into a crash and you kill somebody. The explanation as to why you ended up in the crash was because you was drunk. That does not give you an excuse to say, I wasn't in my right mind. No, you still did what you did. And you should still be held accountable. Somebody lost their life, or at least somebody was hurt because of your actions. You being drunk only explains how you ended up in this predicament in the first place. It doesn't explain it. I know these are not like one-to-one comparisons. Someone drunk as to someone with a disability. But the gist of the explanation is this. Explanations aren't excuses. Having a disability, whether it's Tourette's, whether it's Down syndrome, whether it's autism, whether it's bipolarism, whether it's anything else, having a disability is no excuse for behavior. All right, I'm cool with this individual now, but growing up, I grew up with someone who had Down syndrome, and again, his behavior was he used to go around. Let's just say he was someone that went around inappropriately touching people. There was a couple times I've had to fight this dude. Multiple times, because he needed to be checked on him touching me in ways that I didn't want to be touched. As we got older, we got, it came to a point where he understood it wasn't okay for him to go around inappropriately touching people the way that he was. And now we're cool. Now we're cool. Now I don't feel uncomfortable being around him anymore. I still got the hands, so if there's anything of that nature, I'm still protect myself the way that I did. But y'all would, if the same people that think it's okay for people with disabilities to go around and just, again, disrespect people. Y'all would say I was wrong for putting hands on this dude the times I did, instead of just sitting there and allowing him to sexually assault me. Y'all would say I was wrong for doing that. You're probably in the comments right now, you should have just understood that it's okay. Nah, I didn't want him to touch me in that way, and therefore I don't give a fuck what kind of syndrome he may or may have. He may or may not have. Don't touch me in areas I don't want to be touched, whether you're disabled or not. So if we're going to have this society where, again, inappropriate touch is not okay, that rule should apply to all human beings, not just the ones without disabilities. Because again, from my 5 years of experience, work experience, let me put it that way, because it's been more than 5 years of life experience with people with disabilities, but my 5 years of professional work experience with people with disabilities, you will run into folks of all ages, by the way, whether they're little kids, teenagers, adults. You will run into folks who have had their entire either their entire life or a good portion of their life, people just ignoring and enabling their behavior and not being corrected on their behavior. And then when someone like me comes around and says something about it, that's when you all get to painting me as the ableist, the bad guy. If my peers and supervisor saw it your way, I wouldn't have had 5 years of experience with this demographic. They would have fired me instantly. It's not even I left the field. I left the field of education. I didn't get fired. You know? So clearly my methods of holding them accountable, but while also having an understanding of who they are and what's going on with them, my methods aren't necessarily deemed wrong in the eyes of in the professional world, which is what really matters when you're dealing with this demographic on a professional level. Not the people on social media, not the weirdos on or whatever enablers on the internet who pretend like they know somebody. Or they know more than the professionals, you know. Yeah, this lived experience is a thing, cool, but when has professional experience not been considered a lived experience? I lived through it, right? I've seen it with my own 4 eyes, right? I've dealt with it in person, right? That's a lived experience. In the professional lane, so that's double the experience, professional and lived experience. Should that count for something? Oh, it only counts for something if it's whatever narrative you want. Got it. Anyways, I just wanted to give off that explanation here, and really truly, I know it made the video extra long. It was already long enough anyways, and y'all get like 1 video a week from me, so cherish it. Anyways, that's all I had to say. Let's continue on with the video. You know, some people got the nerve, but speaking of people having the nerve, I'm here to chime in on John Davidson screaming the N-word at Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo at the BAFTAs. I know this is a couple weeks old at this point, but you know me, I chime in on things when I want to. I've actually been wanting to talk about this since the incident happened. Life, laziness, all this other stuff was getting in the way. But I'm here now to chime in on it because I feel like, and this is really, I would say, is the bulk of the reason why I waited so long. I wanted to wait to see if someone else was actually going to make the point that I want to make, that I am going to make in this video, and like most of the time, no one else has it. You know what I'm saying? So here I am making said point. But for those who might be living under a rock, the BAFTAs, which is the British Arts something 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 something. That award show that happens over there in Great Britain. It occurred a couple weeks ago at this point from when I'm recording this. And at that award show, it was pre-recorded. At that award show, the cast of Sinners was there, accepting. They were presenting. I believe they were there to not only just accept awards, obviously being nominated, but they being two members of the highly beloved film Sinners. You know what I'm saying? Go check it out if you've never watched Sinners before. If you have watched it before, would love to know your thoughts. But yeah, Michael B. Jordan, Mr. Lindo, was up there presenting an award for, I don't know. I don't watch the BAFTAs. I don't watch award shows. I've made this pretty clear on my podcast. The stuff that I do outside of what I do here on YouTube. I've made it clear that I don't watch award shows at all. Not even don't really watch them. I don't watch them at all. Therefore, whether it's an award show in Britain or one in America, I'm not. The only time you will ever see me watching an award show is if I am actually attending said award show. That's just, I guess, speaking it into existence for the future. But as far as the present, I'm going to share my thoughts on John Davidson, who is a filmmaker and a Tourette's activist. He is someone who has Tourette's himself. And he was there, obviously, and apparently what was stated at the beginning of the program, of the BAFTAs award show, was about the outbursts that people might hear or might be exposed to from John Davidson, or maybe someone else who has the level of Tourette's that he has as well, and that they should not take what he belts out personally because it's a part of the condition that he has as, again, someone with Tourette's. So that's being stated. Pretty much that was, or seemingly is a way for BBC to, which is the channel that aired the BAFTAs, for BBC to cover themselves, and for I guess the BAFTAs to the BAFTA people to cover themselves as well. Everyone is going to be covered, right? Apparently. So the award show goes on. John Davidson, him being, again, the dude with Tourette's, there are many instances that was stated that night. It wasn't just the one that went viral of Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo getting called the N-word. There were 3 other instances, including that one, so a total of 4 instances where John Davidson screamed the N-word at black people or at a black person, right? There was a producer from Sinners who went on Twitter, and she said that earlier that night, this is off-camera stuff, that he yelled it at her directly and also at a group of black people as well, right? Then there's the infamous one where, so those are 2 out of the 4 times. There was another time where the producer said, that same producer said he yelled it at someone else as well. And again, these are all black people. He wasn't just yelling out the N-word. These were words directed to black people that his eyes laid eyes on. You know what I'm saying? It's like if he were to see me, he's going to scream that word because in his mind, that's who I am, or that's what I am. I'm going to get into all of that in a few minutes. He'd say N-word bitch to Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo. All right. And then according again to one of the producers from Sinners, she states that he that was the fourth and final time he screamed the N-word before he ended up leaving the award show, and that was his way of censoring himself. The network didn't censor him. BAFTA, nobody from like the BAFTAs, no security, nobody said, Mr. Davidson, you gotta leave. It's out of control right now. It's your fourth time. He himself took it upon himself to say, let me get away from all these niggas so I won't scream nigger. So I guess we clap it up for him for that type of self knowledge. In all seriousness, though, here's my thoughts on what happened that night. Here is my thoughts based on my understanding of Tourette's. Let me make that clear. Here are my thoughts based on, or partially based on, my understanding of Tourette's. I'm going to start with my understanding first, right? My understanding of Tourette's is it's not as simple as people are making it seem. People are making it seem as though people with Tourette's just scream out any word or just scream out curse words. But to my knowledge is, and that's one of two things, I really meant one. My knowledge of Tourette's is this. It's not that you just scream out bad words. You actually just say, whether you scream out or whatever, you just say the word that initially comes to mind whenever you are thinking about your surroundings or what you're viewing right now. How does this relate to my perception of John Davidson and what he did that night? If I believe, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if I believe that, and my belief about Tourette's is right, more my understanding, let me just say, about Tourette's is correct, and give me my damn credit. But if my understanding is, it's not as random as people make it seem. Like, oh, you just curse whenever it's uncontrollable. People just blurting out curses and stuff. But anyways, what I also believe about John Davidson is this is how he views black folks. Y'all can get upset. Y'all can feel however you want. I pretty much anticipate this. I anticipate this video being one of the my most disliked videos. I have a few of them. I don't give a shit. But one of my most dumbed down video, probably even reported, probably even whatever the fuck. I don't give a shit. I'm just going to upload this on Substack and then make that a Substack exclusive. Y'all think y'all going to shut a nigga up? Like, you're not. Anyways, I feel like, and this is what happened with John Davidson that night. John Davidson that night was feeling himself. He got his movie out. He's gonna get awarded for it. He gets to talk about Tourette's. He gets to talk about himself. And then he saw them niggas. He saw the atmosphere he was in. He was like, you know what? Why are all these niggas around me? Like, why are they here? I'm not used to being around all these niggas. So you know what? That filter in my brain, because there's another aspect of Tourette's that I failed to mention. I think that not only is it a condition, if you want to call it that, if that's the appropriate term, it's not only a condition where people belt out words that's actually in their lexicon, whether it's appropriate or not. Again, frog legs, dog, N-word, right? No matter the word, right? Bloody cunt, whatever, right? If that's in their lexicon, they're going to scream it out because that's in their lexicon. It's like if you go to the hood, right, and you meet a black person with Tourette's, and they don't belt out the N-word, it's because that's not in their lexicon. Or they don't belt out bloody cunt, it's because that's not in their lexicon. So when they see somebody, that initial thought of calling them a bloody cunt or, the N-word or, a frog, say they got some frog legs. That's not in their lexicon, and therefore they're not going to just immediately build that out. So if John Davidson or anybody who has the N-word or uses the N-word in their everyday lexicon, as I'm assuming John Davidson does, based off his actions and based off of, again, my understanding of Tourette's, if I am assuming, which I am, I'm assuming he not only says that, but assuming my understanding of Tourette's, then he will look at me, he'll look at a Michael B. Jordan, a Delroy Lindo, the cast and the people involved in the film of Sinners, any other black film that may have been presented that night. And that's what's going to come to mind. I know there are people excusing it. I've heard every single excuse out there. It's people with Tourette's, they're fighting the urge against saying the most inappropriate thing at the moment. And to me, it's like, unless you have a study, like actual psychological study to prove that, I don't think that is true. That the word comes out because the urge, the urge to not say it, they lost that battle essentially to Tourette's, in the sense of they lost the battle to not say the word that they were initially thinking. Again, from my understanding, I want to make it clear, from my understanding, I believe that yes, this is a real condition to where possibly, I think, that filter that we have, that internal filter that we have in our mind that says, don't say that right now, don't say that word, or don't say this, don't do that. I think that filter is, again, it's either not present with someone who has Tourette's, or it's not as strong as someone without Tourette's. If I am wrong, again, professionally and respectfully correct me in the comment section below. When I say professionally, I mean somebody who actually is, a psychologist, someone of this field, not somebody who just doesn't care about black people being called the N-word and therefore they're okay with anybody calling them the N-word, so they're going to defend that person saying it. No, I'm not talking to you racist MFers. I'm talking about somebody who actually is knowledgeable, a lot more knowledgeable than me, of course, and a lot more knowledgeable than you. Someone knowledgeable about Tourette's and just all of that in general, right? Again, I am basing this off of and I will even say, even if you want to categorize it as like my ignorance, go right ahead, but my understanding of Tourette's syndrome, and also just thoughts on John Davidson based off of just that, his actions that night, and as I've stated, I think if Tourette's works in a way where you just say words that's in your vocabulary. That being said, the filter is not there, or it's not as strong as one would want it to be, especially during a moment like that. You lose that battle, right? That's what that pause was for. I was trying to figure out how to word that without me saying what initially came to mind, all right? Because I feel as though it's giving off an example of what someone who doesn't have Tourette's can do. They can filter themselves. And I'm not saying people with Tourette's don't have a filter, or they don't know how to filter themselves. I will say this though, just because you have Tourette's, or you may have Tourette's, does not mean that it is okay. That's the end all be all. When I say okay, I mean it's not the end all be all of you just being able to say what the hell you want, or maybe saying what you don't want to say without any type of repercussions or any type of correction, right? There's an understanding there for sure. And shout out to Jamie Lawson.
You saw that, I mean, especially after BAFTA. Did you talk to any of your cast? Anything?
I absolutely talked to them. I'll first say a big shout out to Mike and Delroy. Like, let's continue to honor them for how they handled that in real time. The grace and the dignity that they exercised. And the whole home team, everybody that was out there, like, really carried themselves well. I think the events this weekend exposed a couple things. Institutionally, we still don't understand what inclusion means. Just because you invite someone into a space, but you don't provide the necessary resources to keep them and everyone else in that room safe by them being there, that's not inclusivity. That's exploitation. That man's disability got exploited that night. And it led to multiple offenses. That's the BAFTA's fault. And then the BBC, to air what they aired, right, is careless. And not like some haphazard accident. No, like a real lack of care was exercised for those two black men. And we know the BBC knows how to take care of what they care about, right? Because they censored a bunch of other. They went so far as to make sure certain things weren't topics of conversation. They censored Akinola's speech, the director of My Father's Shadow, which is an amazing film, by the way. So you censored one black man, you failed to protect two others, and our production designer, Hannah, you do not care for our dignity, our humanity. You want to celebrate our art, but you won't protect. And that's why we celebrate sinners. That's why we celebrate Ryan. That's why we show up to the NAACP. Because those are spaces where we felt safe, where we feel safe.
As much as I love her, as much as I love her stance, I'm still not taking 100%. Actually, I am, but I'm saying it in my way, right? At the end of the day, do I blame just the BAFTAs or the BBC for this? That's another part of the discussion that I saw. People kept blaming BBC and the BAFTAs in general because there was a Free Palestine, I guess, message that was blocked out, that was pretty much censored out. But two black men being called the N-word is not being censored on, on the British broadcast channel, right? And here's my stance on that. I'm once again the only one on the hill, and that's fine. I actually am glad that they broadcasted John Davidson calling these two brothers the N-word. Not because I agree, but because we wouldn't have never known had this not gone viral. Let's be real. It's Hollywood, it's actors world, whether it's Hollywood or British Hollywood, whatever it is, their equivalent is. They're going to do the PR thing, the PC thing or the PR thing. Michael B. Jordan and Lindo were not going to come out on the internet or somewhere and be like, yo, this dude called me the N-word. He called us the N-word while we were presenting an award when we were on stage speaking. They're not going to do that. They responded to the support because it was already out there, but they weren't necessarily going to say, yo, I feel violated. I don't even think the producer was going to come out and make her tweets had the information not already been out there. And black folks have suffered in silence far too long with the underreporting of everything. Not just the underreporting of, being called the N-word, underreporting of lynchings, underreporting of wrongfully being arrested, underreporting of police brutality in regards to being wrongfully accused of things, underreporting of redlining, underreporting of just other racial attacks, whether it be verbal or physical, systematic, all this other stuff. The numbers that you see aren't they're not the totality. That's just the numbers that we see when they decided to collect data on this stuff. So, yeah, to you it's just a word, but it's like, nah, I'm glad that, you know, they aired it, because, and I know people, it's a double-edged sword to some sort, because the same people that are saying things like, well, they aired it because they don't care about, Jamie Lawson said this, and this is where I disagree with her. She was saying, like, they aired it because it seems like there was a lack of care for pretty much everybody, the black folks, and the lack of care for Davidson. You know, he was pretty much used. I agree with that aspect too. I'm gonna make sure I share her clip, because she really she tore. Bravo to her, straight up. You know what I'm saying? I'm definitely gonna share her clip. If I get the video flagged down, check the description box, first link, Substack, go over there. This video will be up. But yeah, like, as far as just, I'm glad that the BBC aired it. I'm glad that the BAFTA didn't block it out. BBC, BAFTA, whoever's in charge of all of that censorship, I'm glad they didn't do it. I'm glad they didn't do it, because no matter how ignorant people tried to make black people seem when this discussion was first hot off the press, and try to make it seem as though we're ableists, we're all this other stuff, people are going to probably say this about me in this video. Oh, you're just ignorant. And you're ableist. And yeah, I never said all people who have Tourette's need to die. They're scum of the earth. I didn't say any of that. What I said was, my understanding of Tourette's syndrome is this. People don't just blurt out random words. These words aren't as random as people try to make it seem. These are words that are already in the person's vocabulary, whether it's their daily vocabulary or just their vocabulary in general. These are words that they've used before. And because of that, once they see somebody, they're going to use a word to describe that individual that they've already used in the past. Anyways, as I was stating before, I was interrupted by all those damn texts. All I'm saying here is, yeah, from my understanding of Tourette syndrome, these are words that you use in your everyday lexicon, or you use in your vocabulary, and put it that way. It's just you don't have a filter, or that filter is not as strong as somebody who may also use the N-word but doesn't have Tourette's, and therefore they're able to not say it out loud when they see me or another black person. But the looks, the mindset, all of that is still present. It's just not coming out verbally. You know? That's not me being ableist, saying that's my understanding. And again, like I said, if anyone who has a great understanding of Tourette's syndrome, whether it's because you're someone with Tourette's, you don't even got to be a professional. You got to either be someone with Tourette's or you got to be a professional. Those two doesn't necessarily have to be the same person, by the way, you know? And then people be lying all the time, so I won't know for sure if you're not lying or not. That's something that, you know, intuitively I'm going to try to, you know, work past, but work on detecting. But as far as, like I said, if I am wrong, feel free to correct me in the comment section. But nothing I'm saying is ableist, because I don't have anything against people with Tourette's. I do, however, have something against John Davidson, who, to my understanding, I feel like, again, this is something that he says. And before he waited a week to apologize, his initial statement, which, you know, I'm going to paraphrase, but his initial statement was just promotion of his film and highlighting Tourette syndrome. all that stuff would have been great had he not called people the N-word and said, hey guys, this is just an example of what Tourette syndrome is, but if you want to see a deeper dive, go watch my film. That's what his initial statement is. His initial statement was, all right? He has since, though, apologized a week after people booed him for his initial statement. And, well, I have the apology here. This is from people.com. I will leave this in the link in the description box below for you all to go check out right now. I'm going to skip through a bunch of this stuff here, and it says here, I've been waiting all week until the dust settles after the weekend at the BAFTAs in London, he wrote. I would like to thank each and every one of you who have shown love, support, and solidarity towards myself and the rest of the Tourette's community. Your kind words and support have got me through a very difficult week. Davidson continued, he added, whilst I will never apologize for having Tourette syndrome, no one should force you to do so. No one is asking you to do so. We're just holding you accountable. Anyways, whilst, let me speak English instead of American English, whilst I will never apologize for having Tourette syndrome, I will apologize for any pain, upset, and misunderstanding that it may create. All right. And again, that's a statement. There's more you can read to it as far as this article goes. But again, check the link, people.com, if you want to check the entire thing out. How do I feel about his official apology other than the initial? I hated the initial statement. I said, get this nigga the fuck up out of here. He clearly isn't sorry. And I don't know if I truly believe he's sorry in this one as well. Here's my thing. I don't try to force racist people to feel guilty about their racism. I try to make them feel stupid as much as possible. But, whenever I get the chance, let me just say, like right now, but it's not a situation where I'm going to spend every waking moment of my life trying to reprogram a racist. Nah. I got a life to live. And as long as that individual or no one else no one else is getting in my way of me trying to achieve the things, then you won't have to hear from me. You won't have to see from me. But if you are getting in my way of my happiness, then we're going to have a problem. And we, meaning you're going to have a problem. Because I have no problem letting it be known that you don't want these problems here. All right? So that's my thoughts on that. Anything else I got to say before I go? Again, I want to make it clear. My understanding, I based my thoughts here on my understanding of Tourette's. If I am wrong, if I have something off, if I'm misunderstanding anything, and you are knowledgeable about it because you yourself have Tourette's, or you are a professional and you are very much knowledgeable, well-rounded professional and knowledgeable about Tourette's, feel free to leave comments in the comment section below correcting me. And if you're not either of the two and you have knowledge based off of maybe some links you could share or whatever the case is, then again, do that in the comment section below as well. But if you're just, once again, upset that myself and other black people still wanted this man to apologize for his statements, tough nuts, because like I said, my understanding, this is a word that he says anyways. Whether he has Tourette's or not, this is a word he says anyways. That's the problem here. His condition isn't the problem. The word is the problem, but that's the problem is this is a word he says anyways, which means there's a mindset behind that word whenever he sees black people. Black people like myself speaking up against it is not the problem. And again, once again, to make it abundantly clear, he having Tourette's or Tourette's in general isn't the problem. The problem is the mindset behind it. There was a lovely young lady who went viral last year. I forget her name. Don't remember her name, but she has Tourette's. And pretty young lady. And if I could find her videos or whatever, we'll put it out. But how she handled Tourette's syndrome is far different from how John Davidson. And this guy is much older than this young lady. I mean, this lady she's probably like 20s, if not 30s or whatever. So I think she was like in her 30s. She just looks super young, right? But that's what happens when you're not a racist bloody cunt. So anyways, yeah, she had Tourette's syndrome. And a lot of us, myself included, she didn't scream the N-word. A lot of people were very much understanding of her condition. We're understanding of John Davidson's condition. John Davidson. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, if he doesn't have a track record that I'm assuming, or, have indicated that he probably has, because this is a word that he felt comfortable saying at least 4 times that night or that day, whenever it happened, right? If that is something that he doesn't say when he sees every black person, then again, there's going to be more compassion that's being extended from me. But again, if he sees black people and that's the initial thought, Tourette's isn't the issue. The black people he's seeing isn't the issue. The black person, whether they're knowledgeable about his Tourette's or not, reacting in a way that might not be favorable, like laughing it off or ignoring it, right? That is not the issue here. The issue is, why is it that whenever you see a black person, the N-word, the hard ER, or just the N-word in general is the first thing that comes to mind? And because it's the first thing that comes to mind, and because you have your syndrome, it's hard for you to filter out not to say that. Why is that? That's the questions I'm asking. That's what I want to know. That's what I really want to know. Yeah, I would like to know more about Tourette's and how it works, but I would also want to know, are these words that are actually being said in the person's vocabulary? And if that is the case, does that make the word less harmful because they don't have a filter? Personally speaking, my unprofessional opinion on that, I don't think that deems the word less harmful because they don't have a filter. Because the harm is still being done whether they say it out loud or not. It's the age-old question of, how do you like your racism? Louder in your face or quiet and out of your face? Something to that effect. The racism is still there, though. The hatred is still there. Whether it's louder in your face, being belted at you, or that's the thoughts that's going through that individual's head when they're looking right at you. I don't go, oh my God, just don't say the word. I go, don't be fucking racist. But if you are, and you want these problems, there's going to be a problem. But I don't like the racism, period. I don't like the fact you say the word, period. Not that the fact that I don't like that you screamed it out. I don't like the word, period. I don't like that you said it, period. But again, that's my thoughts on this situation here. Y'all let me know your thoughts, because I'm sure y'all will. Until next time, until next video, I'm a half-ass read these texts. And I'm going to go on about my business. Y'all should too. Peace.